lecture. All right, welcome everyone to participate in the Smart Municipal Construction and Inspection Workshop. Today we have lecture 3, the inspection technology of municipal pipe foundation, pipe bearing capacity. And thanks our host, Simil Ted, School of Municipal and Transportation, Guangxi Polytechnic of Construction, China Asian Construction Talent Training Base. Today, we have Ms. Tang Qiuxia, instructor in the School of Municipal and Transportation, senior engineer and national first-class registered structural engineer in China. She is the quality inspection expert of construction engineering. She has many inventions and publications. And let's warmly welcome Ms. Tang to give us lecture today. Let's welcome Ms. Tang.
Hello everyone, I'm Tang Qiuxia. Today's report, together we are going to learn some knowledge. Some knowledge about foundation pipe bearing capacity test technology and hopefully share some ideas with each other. My report will be given by 2 parts. Part 1, classification of foundation piles. Part 2, bell bearing capacity test, static loading testing. Let's learn the first part, classification of foundation piles. There are many kinds of foundation pile classification. Foundation pile can be divided into flexion pile and the ending bearing pile. According to bearing characteristics, flexion pile include flexion pile and ending bearing flexion pile. Flexion pile refers to the vertical load of pile tip is borne by pile side resistance and the pile tip resistance is negligible. The ending bearing friction pile refers to the vertical load of pile top is mainly borne by pile side resistance under the ultimate bearing capacity. The ending bearing pile including end bearing piles and the friction and the bearing piles. The ending bearing pile refers to the vertical load of pile tip is borne by pile tip resistance and the pile side resistance is negligible. Friction ending bearing pile refers to the vertical load of pile top is mainly borne by the resistance of pile and under the ultimate bearing capacity. Foundation pile can be divided into non-extruded piles, partially extruded piles, displacement through piles, according to the pile forming method. Among them, dry ablation drilling, slurry supported drilling, sleeve protection method of pile wall for drilling belongs to non-extruded piles. Bird and expanded pens mixed in cone pile, pre-drilled driver, pre-cased piles, open-ended steel piles, open-ended pressure, pre-stressed concrete hollow core pile, H-shaped steel piles belongs to partially extruded piles. Tube sinking pile. Tube sinking compacted and expanded filling pile. Drive type plate cased pile. Closed plate treated concrete hollow pile and closed steel pile belongs to extruded shell piles. According to the pile diameter, the foundation pile can be divided into small diameter pile, diameter less than 250 millimeter. Medium diameter piles, the diameter between 250 millimeter and 800 millimeter. And the large diameter millimeter piles, the diameter is not less than 800 millimeter. According to the function of pile, foundation pile can be divided into bearing pile, lateral loaded pile, extraction resistance anchor pile, and the slope protection pile. According to the production and construction method of pile, foundation pile can be divided into brick-cased pile and the filling pile. Next, I will introduce part 2, pile bearing capacity test, static loading testing. Different codes have different regulations on static load test and the monitoring of foundation pile, and these slides will explain it according to the technical code for testing of building foundation pile, GGG 106, 2014. Wait a moment. 这个可以把这个挪到哪里？或者不一样？不一样。Pile foundation testing can be divided into pre-construction to provide the basis for design and post-construction to provide the basis for acceptance. Among them, the acceptance of engineering piles must be tested for bearing capacity and pile integrity. This part is divided into 9 points. I will introduce them one by one. The first, test object. Deflation. Test methods apply vertical pressure, vertical uplift force, or horizontal thrust to the top of the pile stamp by stamp and observe the sediment uplift displacement or horizontal displacement of the top of the pile over time. In this way, to determine the corresponding single pile vertical compressive bearing capacity, single pile vertical uplift bearing capacity, or single pile horizontal bearing capacity. Static load test of foundation pile is the most reliable method to evaluate the bearing capacity and deformation characteristics at present, and it's also the standard to compare with other methods. Static load test of foundation pile can be divided into experiment pile, state load test, and engineering pair static load test according to different test purposes. The static load test. The static loading test of test pair is used to determine the vertical ultimate bearing capacity of single pair. The test is loaded until the relationally resistance of the pair from the side to the top reaches the limited state. When the bearing capacity of the pair is controlled by the pair's choice, it can be loaded according to the design requirements of the loading amount. Auxiliary pair static load test. Static load test of auxiliary pair is used to determine whether the bearing capacity of single pair meets the design requirements. By means of field test, we should test the maximum load of the foundation pair before reach the distraction or when it's not suitable for continual loading. The second, notes of testing pair, requirement for amount. 1. The number of pairs should meet the design requirements and should not be less than 3 under the same condition. 2. When the total number of pairs is expected to be less than 15, the number of the pairs should not be less than 2. Third, regulations of acceptance. Requirement for amount. The number of pairs should not be less than 1% of the total number of pairs under the same conditions, no less than 3 pairs. When the total number of pairs is less than 15, the number of tests should not be less than 2. Fourth, regulation of testing time. In addition to conforming to pairs choice, the rest time before bearing capacity test of foundation pair shall not be less than the time specified in the table below when there is no meteorological experience. And the next time of sandy shoe is 7 days. The rest time of silty shoe is 10 days. The rest time of unsaturated shoe is 15 days. The rest time of saturated shoe is 25 days. Fifth, description of severe load bearing capacities. Vertical animated bearing capacity of single pair. The maximum load corresponding to a single pair before it reaches damage under vertical load or when it becomes unsuitable for further load bearing deformation. It depends on the supporting resistance of the shell to the pair and the pair bearing capacity. Single pair vertical bearing capacity characteristics. We divide the vertical ultimate bearing capacity of the single pair by the safety factor 2, which is the vertical bearing capacity of the single pair. Boys and girls, let's take a 5 minutes break. After 5 minutes, we will continue our lecture. Thanks. 摄像头都开了，那我等一下一点这里就可以了，是吗？是的。直接点这里就是他能看得到的。我念完这句话，我就点这里。
好嘞。
现在讲了，他们听得到吗？可以了是吗？ Okay, next, let's watch a video of vertical compression test of a single pair to get a preliminary idea of how to do static load test.
This is a vertical compressive static load test of a single pile with the counter force device of the counterweight platform. Test preparation. Information acquisition. Make a pile cap, cut off the weak or uncompacted concrete on the top of the pile. Stirrups are wrapped up with a steel mesh or are set within a certain range from the top of the pile. Set up 1 to 2 layers of reinforcement mass on the top of the pile. The main reinforcement pile head shall be straight to the top of the pile under the concrete protective layer. The pile head top surface shall be flat and its angles shall be coincide with that of the pile body. The test can only be performed when the age of pile head concrete reaches 28 days. Determine the position of the main and secondary beams for the pile center. Building of the load measuring system. Place a rigid bearing plate. Place a jack. Building of the main beam abutment. Building of the secondary beam abutment. Installation of the reference pile. For this installation, one end of the beam is fixed and the other end is simply supported on the reference pile. Building of the main beam. Building of the secondary beam. Hoisting of counterweights. Installation of the supporting plate, which shall have sufficient stiffness. Connection of the jack, oil pump, and oil circuit. One end of the oil pump is connected to the oil pump outlet, and the other end is connected to the jack inlet. For another oil pipe, one end is connected to the jack outlet, and the other end is connected to the oil return port of the oil pump. Connected to the pressure sensor. Installation of the displacement sensor. Parameter setting. Turn it on and input the project name, loading, unloading, and other text information on the instrument box. Start the loading and unloading test. Preload shall be carried out before the formal test. After each stage of loading is applied, the power head settlement shall be measured and read for the regulated time and then measured and read every 30 minutes. When the power head settlement does not exceed 0.1 millimeter LVL and this condition occurs twice in succession, it is considered to be stable and the next stage of load can be added. The unloading shall be performed by stages. The load of each stage shall be maintained for 1 hour. After unloading to zero, the residual settlement of power head shall be measured and read, which lasts for 3 hours.
Okay, let's begin my lecture. The sixth, preparation. The top of the pail should be reinforced and the pail cap should be made before test preparation. Reinforcement at the top of the pail. First, concrete pails should be chased out of the blocking nail on top as well as uncompacted concrectors. Second, for 1 ton of the diameter from the top of the pail, it's appropriate to use 3 millimeter to 5 millimeter steel plant wrapped or 1.5 tons of the pail diameter from the top to send the hoop. The spacing should not be greater than 100 millimeter. Third, the top of the pail should be sent with 1 to 2 layers of reinforcement means spacing 16 millimeter to 100 millimeter. Fourth, the main reinforcement of the top should be all straight and laced to the protective layer, and each main reinforcement should be at the same height. Fifth, the top concrete chest should be at 1 to 2 levels higher than other main concrete and shall not be lower than C13. Sixth, the top surface of the pail should be flat and the control axis of the top and the main structure should be overlapped. Seventh, the static load test shall be conducted only after the finish of concrete for 28 days. Seventh, counterforce device includes placed weight platform counterforce device, uncoupled reaction device, uncoupled pressure weight joint reaction device. And look at these 2 pictures. The above figure is the sectional diagram. The following figure is the 3-dimensional schematical diagram. Regulations for the device operation. The reaction force provided shall not be less than 1.2 times the maximum loading amount. It may force structures for stress and the deformation should be calculated. The pressure weight should be ended once before the test. The compressive Stress applied to the foundation should not be greater than 1.5 times the characteristic value of the bearing capacity of the foundation. This image shows a diagram of the anchor pair reaction device, a section diagram on the left, and a plane diagram on the right. The number of the anchor pairs in the anchor pair reaction device shall not be less than 4 pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The image shows the combined reaction device. It can be seen from the picture that the upper part of the reaction device is the correct compaction platform, and the lower part is the anchor pair reaction device. The combined reaction device is used only when the platform reaction device cannot meet the bearing capacity requirements. 8. Equipment. The equipment for static load test of foundation pair include load measuring device and the deformation measure device. We usually use the drag as the static loading device of foundation pair static load test. Test loading should use a hydraulic jack, and the jack should be centered on the test pair so that its center of gravity can remain in a vertical straight line. When 2 and more than 2 jacks are used for loading, the following provisions should be made. 1. They are the same model and size. 2. The center of the combined force of the jack and the pressure plant should be in the same plane line. 3. They should work in parallel synchronization. The drag. Case 1. Direct measurement. The load measuring device can be measured directly by a load sensor placed on the jack as shown on the left. Case 2. Based on the oil pressure and the load according to the setting curve. Deformation measurement device including reference beam, reference stick, and the percentage or displacement sensor. The reference beam should have sufficient stiffness, and one end of the beam should be fixed on the reference pair, and the other end should be simply supported on the reference pair. The reference pair should be driven into the ground below a sufficient depth, generally not less than 1 meter. The reference beam and the reference pair The reference beam shown in the figure used a triangular trench to meet stiffness requirements. setting, percentage, or displacement sensor. It's advisable to send it 200 millimeters below the top of the pair and fix it on the pair. When a pair cap is present, the displacement measuring meter can also be installed directly on the pair cap, as shown on the right. Sentiment measurement is appropriate to use a large number of displacement sensors or percentage, and the number of installation should be in line with the following provisions. For displacement sensors or dial gauges should be installed 1D, no less than 500 millimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the displacement sensors or percentage device. Install 2 displacement sensors or dial gauges 1D less than 500 millimeters. 1, 2. Displacement measuring device. The figure shows 2 commonly used displacement measuring device. The left is the displacement sensor, and the right is the large laser percentage meter. The static node tester adapted in Guangxi region shall have functions such as GPS, which can locate and upload test data in real time. The commonly used static node tester is shown in the figure. Look, this is the pressure part. This is the displacement part. Nice. Key points of the test. How to specify the central distance among test pairs, suppose, and planes. Look at this picture. According to the core requirements, when the reaction device adapts the pressure platform, the distance between the center of the test pair and the side of the supporting pair of the pressure platform is no less than 3 diameter and no less than 2 meters. The distance between test pair center and the benchmark pair center is no less than 3 diameter and no less than 2 meters. The distance between the center of the benchmark pair and the side of the supporting pair of the pressure platform is no less than 3 diameter and no less than 2 meters. 9 key points of the test. The first, brain pressure. The stated node test can be carried out after the completion of the test installation preparation work, and the preparation must be carried out before the formal loading. The pre-pressured load shall be 5% of the maximum load, and the pre-pressure time shall be 5 minutes. During the pre-pressure, the equipment can be unloaded to zero. When the operation is regular and the initial date of the displacement test instrument can be recorded after the date is stable. At this point, the first stage load begins to be formally loaded. Second, loading and unloading. The loading should be graded, and the loading amount at each level should be 1/10 of the maximum loading amount or the estimated load. The maximum loading pressure should not be less than 2/10 of the design requirement bearing capacity. When loading, it shall be loaded stamp by stamp, and the first level load shall be 2/10 of the gradual load. When unloading, it shall be unloaded in the same amount stamp by stamp, and the unloading amount of each stage shall be 2/10 of the gradual load. When the loading grade is old, the unloading amount of the first stage shall be 3/10 of the gradual load. 2, 3. Load transfer should be uniform, continuous, and shock-free when loading and unloading, and the violation of each load level in the maintenance process should not exceed 10% of the gradual load. After each grade of load is applied, the sentiment of tail top should be measured at 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 13 minutes, 45 minutes, and 16 minutes, and then measured in every half an hour. When the sentiment of the tail top does not exceed 0.1 millimeter with every hour, and occurs twice in succession, it's considered that the segment of tail top reaches the relative stability stage, and the next load can be loaded. After unloading, the top residual sentiment should be measured once every 15 minutes. After twice, the observation should be done in half an hour, maintaining 1 hour for each level of load. After all unloading, the top residual sentiment should be measured again with no less than 3 hours. The measurement time should be 15 minutes, 30 minutes. After every 30 minutes, the top residual sediment should be measured. Thus, conditions of stop loading. The test can be terminated when one of the following situations occurs. 1. Under certain load degree, the sediment of pile top is 5 times larger than that under the previous load, and the total sediment of pile top is more than 14 millimeter. 5 times and 14 millimeter. 2. Under certain load grade, the sediment of pile top is 2 times larger than that under the previous load and has not reached stability after 24 hours. There has reached the design requirements of the maximum loading, and the top sediment has achieved relative stability standards. For acceptance, the maximum loading should not be less than 2 times of the design bearing capacity of a single pile. 4. When the engineering pile is used as an anchor pile, the pile is driven up to the specified amount. 5. When the load sediment curve is slowly varying, it can be loaded until the total sediment at the top of the pile is 16 millimeter to 18 millimeter. When the resistance at the end of the pile is not fully developed, it can be loaded until the cumulative sediment at the top of the pile is more than 18 millimeter. After the test is completed, the ultimate bearing capacity of single pile can be determined according to the following 6 points. 1. Load auxiliary QS curve and the other curve required for auxiliaries. Second, according to the characteristics of sediment changing with load, the load value corresponding to the starting point of observed stamped draft shall be taken for steep draft type QS curve. Thus, when the sediment of pile top under such a load level is 2 times than that under the previous load level and has not reached stability after 24 hours, the value of the previous load level shall be taken. Fourth, according to the characteristics of sediment change over time, the load value of the first grade with observed downward bending at the top of S not T curve should be taken. Fifth, for the sole valuation QS curve, it's advisable to take the corresponding load value when equals to 14 millimeter according to the total segment of pair top. For pair space D, D is the diameter of pair end, greater than or equal to 800 millimeter. Take the corresponding load value when equals to 0.05 D. When the pair is larger than 14 millimeter, noticed completion of pair body shall be considered. 6. When the condition of number 1, 2, 5 of this article are not satisfied, the maximum load value shall be taken for the ultimate vertical compressive bearing capacity of the pair. The characteristic value of vertical compressive bearing capacity of single pair shall be taken as 15% of the ultimate vertical compressive bearing capacity of single pair. The 2 is the level of the safety. Due to time is limited, my lecture will be over now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Tang, for the lecture today. If you have any questions, please put into the chat box. Please type your question into the chat box. We will answer each of the questions. While we're waiting for the question, we can open your camera and have a group photo with our lecturer. Please open your camera. Or open your camera and smile too. All right. We have a screenshot together. 你来截一下图，谢谢。你来截一下图，谢谢。Okay. 等一下。We're waiting for camera open, camera open. Yes, I will send the attendance link later. Please have some question and open your camera now to have a screenshot together. Yeah, please have some question. All right, 3, 2, 1, smile. right, 3, 2, 1。老师，您站到这边讲台上与学生们合并。
没有问题。
老师，您站到中间来吧。All right, maybe you're thinking about the question. We give 2 more minutes. Yes, we have one question. What should be taken into consideration on settlement of pile on sandy oil versus silty oil during load test? Percentage of differences between the 2 types of soil. Ms. Tan will answer the question.
就在那个荷载测试的过程中，就是这两种，一种是在那个沙土地，还有一种是那个淤泥的土地。然后呢，对于那个沉降量的，就是撞击的沉降，我们应该考虑什么因素？
哪2个土？
就是沙土啊，
沙土，还有一个是
淤泥土，
淤泥土，它的沉降量。
我们应该考虑什么？就是如果对比这两种桩的沉降。然后还有第2个部分就是这两种土大概有个多大的百分比的不同沉降量？
沉降量有什么不同是吗？
对，就是相差多大？百分几
？OK， 这是第1个问题。我可以放到我那个 PPT。
可以。直接共享。这个。Okay. This time we'll answer to this question by presenting the PowerPoint.
他们沉降量的考虑是吗？OK， 在这里，就是我这个 PPT 的这个第9点这个地方，我看不是第9点，应该是担任极限层这里啊，在这里，在这个第4点这里讲的这个第2个，就是如果说是那个沙土的话，它可能是呈一个这个陡降型。这个陡降型的一个变形，然后这个粘性土的话，它可能呈的是一个缓变型的一个变形。那么它们的沉降量的话呢，主要是考虑它这个曲线是陡降型还是那个缓变型，它的考虑这个沉降量，主要是跟它这个做这个荷载实验的那个曲线是陡降型还是缓变型，这样子去考虑。然后还有它那个相差是吗？还有那个？
对，就是相差大概有多少比例的相差？
这个比例是
沉降，
沉降的比例是吗？
对，沉降相差大概有%多少？
这个没有具体的一个数额，但是怎么讲呢？就是沉降相差没有一个具体的，那不回答那个先。
Okay.
就是回答那个。
Okay. Regarding your question that what should be taken into consideration of the settlement between these 2 types, the sandy one and the silted sands. As per the presentation just now, I mentioned that the settlement shall be based on their QS lines. For the sandy soil, it is shown as a steeply falling QS, and then the suited sand will be shown as a slow falling QS.
那就第二个问题。
Thank you for this question. Next question. What does pile bearing capacity depend on?
是哪个？
你放大一下这个。
哦。What does pile bearing capacity depend on? 装机承载力主要取决于什么因素？取决于什么？
它的承载力是吧？一个是它的桩身的强度，桩就是那个木字旁的桩，桩身的强度，和这个就是下面那个桩下面那个土啊，就是那个应该叫做就是土吧，土或者岩石，它的这个承受能力，就这两个，然后还有一个就是我看，也就是强度和变形，最后就总结一下，也就是强度和变形，强度和变形啊。
Okay, the pile bearing capacity depends on mainly two factors. The first one is the strength of the pile body. The other is the bearing capacity of the soil, which supports the pile, and it can be summarized as that it depends on the strength of the pile and the deformation. Thank you.
第三个了。
Next one. What are two problems that pile capacity must consider? Pile capacity increase over some period of time.
Two problems.
什么东西要考虑
？Pile capacity over some period of time. 就是装机承载力必须要考虑哪两个问题？然后装机承载力是不是会随着时间的增加而有所变化，或者说随着时间增加而增加？
也就是说，这个就是前面他讲的那个承载力考虑的那两个嘛，一个强度和变形嘛。然后下面这一个的话，它随着时间，它前期是变大的，到后期就是平稳，甚至是下降。就这样子。它的在这。
Okay, the first part of the question is that the pile capacity depends on the strength and the deformation. And the latter part of the question is that is it increase over the period of time? For the first part of the period, it is increased, but at a later stage, it will tend to be stable and even decrease over time. Thank you.
然后就是下一个。
Thank you. Next question. Test equipment question. On what method take the data? Telemetry operate devices.
什么方法数据
On what method? What method data? 就是用什么样的方法来取那个数据？对。
用什么的方法取？
对，就是那个或者收集吧，收集数据，用什么方法来收集数据？
用什么方法来收集数据啊？就是这个我们现在这个 PPT 现在讲的这个进载实验啊，用这个进载实验的方法，就是这个机装进载实验，通过这个方法来采集承载力的这个数据。
Okay, the data can be obtained by the static load text, as shown on the presentation.
老师，你可以讲解一下，就是那个
哪个？那可以搞到那个共享是吗？共享，然后在这里装机它。
有下面就是
关掉啊，就在这里，他用到这个方法，我们讲的这个就是这个方法，用的这个方法，然后呢，用到的仪器设备的话呢，就是这一台，通过这台仪器设备来传输这些数据。
Okay, as this is the equipment used to obtain the data for the static load text. And yes, as you can see, that it's a wireless measurement and control or remote supervision. You can see here is the displacement,
这是位移的数据。
displacement and the pressure
这是我们加贺的力。
Okay, this is a load we act to the pile. 后面那部分的那个问题是
看一下
遥控技术。
使用
对啊，这是使用这个遥控的工具吗？遥控设备吗？
就是这个里面它本身含有一个 GPS 定位的一个功能，是它这里你可以看得到这个无线正常，可以看得到它这里。
Okay.
这里会有信号。
Here you can see that it is a wireless and it's normal state. Means it has some functions such as GPS.
聊天，然后还有什么
Okay, next question. What kind of soil have poor bearing capacity?
就是承载力很弱的土是哪一种土？
淤泥质土。
The silted soil will have a poor bearing capacity.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Tang, to answer those questions. And any more?那老师，你还有什么想要再解释一下的？
解释一下是吗？就是关于这个承载力吗？
刚刚可能你讲的过快，或者是你想再多讲一下的部分。
我再多讲一下的部分是吗？那我再讲一下，就是。
Okay, one more question. For offshore bridge construction, what is the most efficient pile? Group pile or monopile?
For offshore bridge construction, what is the most efficient piles? Group piles or monopile? 就是对于近海的桥梁建设，什么样的桩形式是最有效的？是一组一组的，还是说单桩？
单桩。
单桩更有效是吗？
单桩现在就是因为条件的限制嘛，就条件的限制，就是你有些桩是做不了嘛，一般他们都是单桩。
Okay, for the fossil bridge construction, the monopiles will be more sufficient because the conditions of the construction may be limited, and some kind of piles cannot be constructed. So the monopiles will be more efficient.
这个是什么？
那就是
讲的比较快一点，
能再解释一下多一些？
就是你就跟他讲这个基准桩，基准桩和这个不是要有足够的刚度嘛？然后就是同时还要保证就是这个就是它的一个变形不能太大，所以说我们平时要有一些就是防晒啊，就是防止它变形的一些遮挡的一些措施。这个我刚刚没有讲到，这里把它加一下。
Okay, something I want to add to this PowerPoint is that as you see that is a reference beam and a reference pile here, they should have sufficient stiffness and without having too much deformation. So some measures need to be taken to protect them from the sunshine and and wind.
对，还有就是这个基准桩它一边是固定，一边是剪枝，就是它的搭建，就是跟这个桩的这个就是基准梁跟这个桩它之间是一边固定一边剪枝。
Okay, the connection between this reference beam and the reference pile is that one end of them is fixed, the other end is simply supported.
是这样，然后这个的话就是说，它除了做这个桩帽以外它还可以搞那个钢箍起来，就是钢筋箍住那个桩的头嘛，就是这样子。
Here, as you see, is the pile cap, but in addition to this kind, we can also have a steel stirrup to wrap up this pile.
就是也没有什么啦，这个差不多。你就说这个规范里面它是给出了相应的这个记录表格，就是说我们的这台仪器啊，这台仪器它就是根据这个表格设计的嘛。那你不用这台仪器，就是说你不用无线的嘛，你自己手动的记录的话也可以，手动的记录放到这个记录表里面也可以。
Okay, as you see here on the right of this screen, there is a record table which is required by the code of the power capacity bearing capacity. And just now you can see the instrument or the device we use to acquire the data is based on this record table. And if you don't want to use this equipment, you can also record it manually and fill in this table.
然后还有一个，这里他也图上看得到，做这个实验要把这个警戒线围起来，就是那种非实验人员在这个实验过程是不能进去打扰他的、扰动他的。
As you can see here, a warning fence or warning strip is set up here around this station, and the people who is not involved with this test is not allowed to get near this station.
然后就是做这个进载实验之前呢，我们要保证三通一平，就是通水、通电、通路，大路的路，然后平也是平路啊，这个路面要平嘛，就是这是准备工作，刚刚没有讲了，就做这个实验之前要做的准备工作。
Okay, before the test of steady load test can be carried out, we should sure that these conditions shall be satisfied, meaning the assets of electricity, the assets of water, and assets to electricity, and also the wet leveling of the land. They shall be satisfied to carry out this test.
然后还有就是这个实验是关于承载力嘛，安全性很重要。然后做之前，它的这个检测方案要经过5方签字，就是设计方、监理方、勘察，还有甲方，还有施工方。甲方就是建设方嘛，5方嘛，就要签字确认以后，通过了这个方案才能够做。
Okay, because the bearing capacity is very important and the tax is very important. So the scheme for the tax shall be approved by signing by 5 parties, which is the designer or engineering party, the supervision party, the survey party, the client, and also the construction party. They all shall sign the scheme for this tax before it can be carried out.
然后帮我共享一个东西在这里。帮我共享一个，
你要放什么？
我放在桌面，我放在桌面。然后这直接可以看这个图片吗？
点击时钟
就可以了是吧？就说在现场就必须要有这么一个牌子，这个牌子上面就要列这些的内容。你说那个质检站就是政府的人，就质检站过来检查，他要看到这些内容，他要了解这些信息，就是这样子。
Okay, as you can see here that there is a plate here, which shall be set up on the sides with the information as below, like project name and the information of the main beam, the secondary beam, and the counterweights, first layer, second layer, until the 7th layer. All this information shall be shown on this table, which shall be watched and or observed by the people who from the quality control supervision station, who are governmental department. And only when the information here is shown and is completed, the test can be conducted.
Okay. 你看他们还有什么问题吗？
Right. Thank you so much. And we have 2 more questions here. First one, why should the stability reach 24 hours? Why not just 12 hours?
在哪里？
Question from Eric.
Why should the stability reach 24 hours? Why not just 2 hours? 就是那个稳定之后，就是稳定性为什么打20？
这是经过大量的实验数据然后规范里面它是规范规定的嘛，它规范是经过大量的实验的数据总结得出来的。
This 24 hours is based on the requirement of a code, and the code is based on a lot of experimental data, so it is set as 24 hours instead of 12 hours.
All right, next question. For offshore or onshore pipes construction is bidirectional load test the most recommended test for high bearing capacity pipe nowadays?
Offshore, onshore, bidirectional test the most recommended test. 就是具有很大承载力的桩是建议用于双向荷载测试的吗？就比如说是对于那些靠海的或者说在海上的装机建设来讲，是不是推荐用？
这是双向荷载是吧？你说这是根据它本身的受力的这个情况。如果它受力是双向的，那肯定就是双向的；如果受力是单向的，那就是单向的。是这样，跟它本身承受力的。
Okay, the method should be based on the force characteristics of the bridge itself. If it is a bridge which carries the bidirectional load, it should be the bidirectional text. But if it is a single directional load text, it should be a single directional text. It depends on the force characteristics of the bridge themselves.
Okay, I think this is all the question. All right, here's the attendance link. Please fill in the link and get your certificate. The certificate will be sent to you via email after a week. If you need the lecture presentation slides and recordings, please join our group chat. If you're also interested in other training programs and lecture, please also join our chat. We will send information in there. Please fill in the link that I sent in the chat box. You can get your certificate in a week. And thank you so much, Ms. Tang, for this wonderful lecture and answering all the questions. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, to participate in this workshop. We have 3 days together, and we will have more training workshop in the future. Thank you. 谢谢老师。
谢谢老师。
Yes, be safe and good luck for the future study and Go engineers. Please fill in the link to get your certificate once you attended to lecture in this workshop. The certificate will be issued via email in about a week. And if you need the lecture presentation slides and recordings, please join on a WhatsApp and Telegram group chat. Thank you.